10 years ago, I packed up my life and moved down here to Southeast Tennessee. I wasn't sure if it was going to be the best decision that I would ever make or just a huge mistake. So today I want to share what nearly a full decade has been like here for me, the good, the challenging, and some of the surprises that just nobody had told me about. If relocating to the Chattanooga area is on your radar and you want to talk to someone who's made that move that you're considering right now, my contact info is right below in the description, and you can download my relocation guide there too. It's got a ton of information about the area that I wish that I had had before moving. Now, before I moved down here, I lived up in the state of Maine, where we had two kinds of seasons. We had winter, and then we had getting ready for winter. So we had a short season of enjoying the absolute beauty that is Acadia National Park, and that's where I was born. And that's a huge reason that I wanted to move down here, because I wanted to still enjoy the extraordinary surroundings and not be holed up inside for months on end during the cold. In fact, one of the last winters that I was up there, we had so much snow that one of my neighbors ended up bringing his excavator down to help me clear the end of my driveway. And little did I know that that was our own form of the Southern hospitality that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute. And one thing that a lot of people don't know about me is that this was actually my second time relocating to Tennessee. First, I came down to Nashville after graduating from Berklee College of Music, and I went back to Maine after my mom was diagnosed with brain cancer, and then I just had to get back to Tennessee. The draw of the South was that strong. Warmer winters, still having 4 seasons, and that foliage to watch as we entered into the fall. One thing I wasn't quite ready for is that humidity. Now, for my first impressions when I got here, the first thing that I really noticed was how friendly everybody is. People really do wave at you everywhere that you go, and sometimes it can feel like a little bit much, but after a while, it just becomes second nature. Kind of like when that Jeep driver waves as another Jeep driver passes. And now there are a few quirks about that Southern hospitality that took me a little bit of getting used to. Like at a 4-way stop, rules, they kind of matter to me, but people here are just so nice. They just keep on waving you on through until it is just an infinite loop of people waving each other through and traffic's not actually moving. And that wave culture did take me a little bit of getting used to. And one of the really fun things about that Southern hospitality was when we had first moved to our house up here in the Cleveland area. Megan's gonna kill me for telling this story. As she was backing down the street, this was our first morning after we had our first night here. She backed down and her car fell into the ditch that's right at the end of our driveway. Our neighbor was outside and he had to have seen it happen, and he just hopped into his truck and drove by once and drove by again. He was kind of assessing the situation, and then he hopped out of his truck, didn't say a word, just got his ratchet strap out and tied it to the back of his truck, walked over, tied it to the back of Megan's car, and then just started to pull her out. We were just about to go down to the gas station and get some coffee because we didn't even have our coffee maker unpacked yet. And he just said, nope, that's just what we do. And one of the other cool things about the Southern hospitality that I really do find down here is that people like to talk about the things that we have in common. Like when I'm at the gym, I am surrounded by people that might have different political beliefs than I do. And we just get to talk about things like our dogs, housing, and we get to talk about food and culture. It's just really, these people are nice and they're funny, and that is something that I've really come to appreciate down here in Chattanooga. And now on this Southern hospitality tip, like maybe it's because I was brought up in the hospitality business, but a lot of the stuff that I grew up with, like opening doors for everyone until you're maybe 3 parties behind your group at the restaurant, always saying please and thank you, like all of that stuff is built into the culture down here. And now, speaking of restaurants, I remember when I first realized that I wasn't in Maine anymore was at a Shoney's, and I saw biscuits and gravy for the first time in my life. And I thought, what the heck is this? This is amazing. And now, after I settled in, I realized that the things that make Tennessee special and why I've stayed here for 10 years are the things like the outdoors. We've got all of these beautiful mountains, lakes, and trails, and just a couple of hours north, you'll be right into the Smokies, and about 45 minutes down east, you'll be into North Carolina and all the mountains there. It's just absolutely spectacular. And then there's things like the growth of Chattanooga and Cleveland that we're seeing. It really is exciting seeing all these new restaurants and tech companies and all of this stuff happening around town. It really reminds me of being back in Belfast and Bangor, Maine, where I got to be part of the growth of these cities downtown. That excitement, that energy was just captivating, and I really feel that same kind of energy right down here. And speaking of all those new restaurants and businesses too, there are a bunch of these places that I recommend in my relocation guide that you can grab right below. And then on a personal note too, meeting my wife, Megan, and being able to see her build her career while I built mine down here has been one of the most amazing things about my relocation to Tennessee. And so, of course, it hasn't all been perfect. There are still a few things that grind on me even after a decade of being here. One of the big ones is the humidity that we're experiencing, especially right now in August of 2025. I mean, we are the 6th rainiest state in the country, but it all just seems to come like at once in these huge pockets in June and then in August. And while I am a realtor, it still does get challenging for me to see farmland that gets turned into subdivisions so quickly. And why is that? It's because I spent a lot of time in Maine working with small-scale organic farmers, and I brought a lot of their ingredients into my restaurant. So I know how hard these people work and how passionate they are about providing food for us to put on our table. And there have also been some cultural adjustments that I've had to make, and I've talked about those a little bit in some previous videos, which you can check out right here. But things like asking where you go to church before anything else in a conversation definitely was an adjustment for me. And the laws that are there regarding pets and just the lack of people spaying and neutering their animals, very different than it was up north. And that's why things like the initiative that I have, Mission 42, are so near and dear to my heart, where I get to donate 10% of my compensation to an animal-focused nonprofit of your choice, like Dixie Day, where they provide low-cost spay and neuter, and McCamey Animal Center, who really are a huge part of the Chattanooga community. And then there are the ticks. I really thought that ticks were much more prevalent up in Maine when I used to be out mushroom hunting in the woods, and that was when I was diagnosed with Lyme disease because of that. But down here, they are just as prevalent. It is crazy. Those challenges, they taught me a lot. And if I could go back and give myself some advice 10 years ago, here's what I would say. Just expect the neighbors to wave and make sure that you wave back. And I've got neighbors who let their dogs roam around the neighborhood, and they find themselves inevitably in our yard. Now they get the same love and treats as our own, and that's the dogs that I'm talking about, not the neighbors. They just get waves and conversation. And I would tell myself, make sure that you budget for that humidity. Extra showers are a real thing down here. And after walking the dogs for like 10 minutes, I really feel like I need to take a second, sometimes a third shower throughout the day. And another thing would be to just make sure that you say yes to community events and small town festivals. Just always say yes. You never know who you're gonna meet. I got to meet one of my father-in-law's great friends at a luncheon for Cleveland Main Street, and have also made some really great friends at Dread Hollow during Halloween. And then I would also tell myself, don't worry if you can't integrate y'all into your daily talk, because it's been a decade and it still hasn't quite come fluidly for me just yet. So that has been a brief overview of my first 10 years right here in Tennessee. Plenty of surprises, a lot of growth, and a place that really feels like home now. And if you're thinking of making the move yourself, I put together a free relocation guide that's linked right in the description below. It's got everything that I wish I had when I first moved down here. And if you want to see what life could look like in some specific neighborhoods, go ahead and check out this Tennessee Home Tours playlist next. Until next time, feel free to contact me with any questions that you might have about living your best life right here in Southeast Tennessee.